Hi everyone, it's Mary with a passion for paper. Today we're going to be working with these beautiful mini vintage ladies. And these are from a digital kit from HoneyRuthDesigns, and I will link her Etsy shop below. I have printed out a couple of these pages of the mini vintage ladies. I print them on cardstock, cut them out, and just started playing with them. And I really like how they look when put onto some of this brown craft paper. So this is just like the paper you get with Amazon packaging or other things that just get sent to you in the mail. And I just hand tore little pieces and glued these wonderful images on top of them. And a few of them I folded in some of the edges like this. You can kind of see folded little pieces all the way around. And these, I think this one, let me see. Yeah, this one is also, I feel like sometimes I will maybe fold a couple of the edges, but not all of them. But I like how the torn edges look when they're folded in. Here's one that I did. I just folded two of the sides and left two of the sides flat. So it's just all different ways to get some dimension and variety into these. These are basically journal cards that I've made out of index cards, and I coffee and tea stained them. This one has so much of the coffee stain on it you can't even see the lines anymore. So that's fun as well, but I just think these came out so nice. Here you can see the little line from the index card that's still left in a spot there on the back. And these could be just inserted like this into a journal, or you could embellish with more lace. You could round the corners. This one I did round the corners, and this one I did not. So very versatile. You can use these for so many different things, and I just thought it would be fun for us to play with some of these and make some collages for a neutral vintage style journal. And as you can see, I have quite a few that I've already glued onto the craft paper. So just show you a couple more here, and there's just such a lovely variety of all different vintage ladies, and they're tiny. They're just so adorable. They're called mini vintage ladies, and let me get my ruler and measure them for you. So let's pick one up here. This is just under an inch. So it's about an inch, 1 inch by 1 7/5 or 1 3/4 inch. So you can see very tiny little images, and so they work perfectly for little clusters. And so let's just see what we can come up with, and I'll just do a little craft with me today. I pulled together a few things that we could use to collage with. These are some vintage pages from a music book about Mozart. And then I also have my French book pages that I like to use. And then of course I have a lot of coffee and tea dyed papers. I have this stack here that I've been gathering. I like to, oh, here's a card, cacophony. So I've been coffee and tea dyeing those old vintage vocabulary cards. But these are just like put together pieces that we can use. I think that would be fun to collage right on some of these pages for a journal, and that way they'll be ready to go. So this is a size of journal that I like to use. So why don't we do some collaging onto here? Okay, so I'm just going to move this out of our way, but I want to gather some of these to put on my collage. So you can see some of them have slightly different coloring. These are more of the yellow tone, and this is more of the beige tone. This is almost into the pink tone. So it's wonderful, the different variety. I love this one. This is more of the darker brown tones. And these cute little cards, I do sell these in my Etsy shop. I haven't listed any for a while, but hopefully I'll get together a nice little set and I will be listing those again. Last year I had a lot more of those available. Go in spurts of what I tend to work on. So I just got these out recently again and thought this would be a lot of fun to mass make. And I have my glue stick here. This is Scotch Create glue stick, and I love using this. And then for anything that doesn't have the edges all the way down, I use my little art glitter glue. So I'm going to grab my glue book and we'll get started. Hope everybody's doing well today and enjoying your crafting time. I think what I'll do is layer up some things underneath these. First I'll choose one. I like this because it has a little bit of the coffee paper in the back. So first I'll just see what colors I want here. See, I think this one looks better. And then we'll add some French book page. Always looks good. I always love to have some French book page in all of my journals and projects. This one has a lovely patina along the edge, but I also sometimes like to get rid of that little extra bit. And then I'm going to just add a little bit of edging with my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink. Now, what else can we put on there? So I do have some more pieces of artist dyed paper that I have already torn into little shapes, and I just sometimes go through a stack of that to find some that looks like it would be a good fit color-wise. Also have this lovely vintage lace from a vintage wedding dress that I have coffee and tea dyed. And we'll put some of that in here as well. So let's do some auditioning before I get my glue stick out. I think I'll leave the cover on there. So, ooh. I like cutting things a little jaggedy so it's not too many straight lines. Now sometimes I also make these things and then I go over to the sewing machine and I just sew around it instead of gluing everything down. Sometimes it's actually seems easier to me to just sew it down, and I also do like the messy threads look. So that's another option. Kind of like this idea. Let's see how this comes out if we were to do something like this. That's looking kind of nice. Now my next thought is I might actually want to put this onto a cover. So this is just regular coffee dyed paper, and so that is you know, only 20 pound, which sometimes that can be fine, but other times I like to put it on something a little sturdier. So I have these booklet covers that I have coffee and tea dyed, and they're on thicker multimedia artist paper. So I'm going to see if I have one that seems like it would be a good fit here. This looks kind of nice. I have a couple that I have the white acrylic paint on. If you see one of my previous videos, I did a project with white acrylic paint, and I also made some of these. These weren't the exact pattern. This is from a while ago, but I have shown a video where I made several of these with the white acrylic paint, so I can link that below as well. Let me just see how this would look on here. Whoop. I don't really need my glue book yet. So here's this. Now, I feel like it's a little too busy, so I'm gonna go back to a more plain one, but I think I might just use, here, let's just grab them out so I can see them. There's a couple more plain ones, and those really grungy one. Let's just see. Transfer it over here. I like that. Just going to pause this and go sew it. Okay, so here is the sweet little mini vintage lady on this cover of a journal. I just added her with some cheesecloth and all these little bits of lace, trim, cheesecloth. This cheesecloth has been coffee and tea dyed, and this vintage lace has also been coffee and tea dyed. I love the grungy pattern on this artist paper. It has really been dyed so nicely here. A lot of edging that looks like it's been inked, but that's from the coffee staining process. And here's all the lovely messy stitching on this side, which can be exposed for a more rugged look, or could be covered over with another digital image or some coffee dyed paper. And then the back is also very gorgeously grungy. So that came out really nice. I'm happy with it, and I can just put this in my stack of covers now and then just find some papers to fit in here. So that's one. Now I'm gonna take a couple more. I think what I would like to do, I have this little stack here of index cards that have been coffee and tea dyed, and I'll just lay out a few of these to make some more of these pretty journal cards that we saw at the beginning. So these, I rounded the corners on most of them, but not all. I basically just put them all in this corner. I have one here in the opposite corner, so I think I'll do some over there as well. But let's go ahead and make a few of those. These are interesting patterns. That's pretty. And these gorgeously grungy ones. Ooh, love that. Very nice. So we have an assortment here. Let's see what we can do. Actually, I'm going to put these aside because I love how grungy they are. And I might want to sell those. I have little packs of these super grungy ones in my shop because they're quite popular. And as you can see, some are a lot more grungy than others. Some still have a lot of the index card lines on them. I love these. They look like buildings to me. It's a special container that I dye them in. There we go. I think that's a good assortment. And what I also like to do sometimes is just re-rip them. So like this one had too straight of an edge. I just wanted to rip it, make it more jagged. And I'm gonna put some on the far side. I like that darker one. Ooh, this one's nice too. I think like there's so many variations of color, the light and dark. I think it goes really nicely there. So I'm gonna tear off a little bit more. It seemed like it was a little too much on that side. You see how she's looking down? These ladies are looking that way, so I kind of want to face them that direction on the card. And whereas this lady's kind of looking that way, so she looks good facing the other way. And then I like this one is also facing that direction, so we could put her down there. Kind of like the shape here. Looks a little bit similar to the shape of her outfit. And then we just need one more. I feel like that might be too yellow. Oh, this looks good. Has some of the lighter coloring in it. Okay, good. So I think we have a good assortment here. Bring back my glue book. We'll just kind of start in here. Make sure I'm in frame. Okay. And again, I like that this one of my methods is working in batches. So, you know, one day I would have printed all of these out on cardstock. Another day would be spent cutting them. Another day ripping little pieces of this and having them all in a stack. Another day of gluing this onto these, and now coming together to glue them onto these cards. So it's a nice way to break up a mass make and do a little bit just to kind of keep the pacing going of not getting bored with a project. I have a lot of things going at once, and I just find that's a good way to hold my interest and adjust what I'm working on based on what mood I'm in. What do I feel like doing? Do I feel like gluing, ripping, you know, putting things together? And I think that looks kind of nice, actually, having the little edges out, and that glue will dry clear. So there's one. I buy this Scotch Create glue stick on Amazon, and I bought, I believe, a 3-pack a while ago, but I'm finally starting to run out, so I'm gonna have to get another batch. I really like the way it adheres. Oh, gotta stay focused on what I'm doing. I just think they're so charming. I love the variety too. It's like so many different. Try not to glue the very edge down because I like it hanging over a bit. So I just put a little less glue on that side there. That looks yummy. So I'm just going to try not to put some at the top and this side. And I like to turn the page so that I don't get my card down in the glue. I love how her hair almost matches that color perfectly. So the question is, should we round the corners or leave them square? So what I usually like to do is round some and leave some. So I feel like this would look good rounded, and so would this one. And I like to do 2 at a time. Just seems like it works better when there's 2 or more. Something went a little bit awry there. And then obviously I'm not going to round that corner because it's behind there. So when something goes awry, you can just use your scissor and just kind of work it out. And then the other thing I like to do is just take a little bit of ink and go around the edges a bit. There we have it. Just going to give her a little bit of touch up there with the ink too. And I want to touch up this corner. There we go. And again, I'm using Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink. I made this pattern on an index card with some little pieces of plastic tablecloth, and that's how I got those effects. Now see, this one I'd like to leave because it looks very geometrical to me. It's got like the geometrical shape there, here, so I think the sharp edges looks good. So we'll have that. This one, oop, have my little pieces that went flying. This one, kind of like this sharp edge because look at her collar. It's got a nice sharp square edge there. This one, kind of feel like this point and that point look good together, so I'm going to leave those. And this one I think would look lovely rounded. How about this one? I think this would look good rounded too. So I'm just going to do these 2 together. I'm going to try to keep this very light because it's much lighter color than the other ones. So not a lot of inking, just a very light dusting. This one I could ink up a bit darker. So there we have some delightful journal cards with the mini vintage ladies. And I'm just going to make a few clusters. And that way we'll have 3 things. We've got the journal cards, the cover, and next up we're going to make some clusters. So let's set these off to the side. Just shows you how versatile this digital kit is from HoneyRuthDesigns with these lovely vintage ladies. So for the clusters, I like to use a backing of this lovely artist dyed paper, and I do have a lot of these just torn into little shapes. These I can tell I tore into shapes before I even coffee dyed them because they get that nice edging on them. So let's take a look here. Ooh, these are so pretty. There's so many lovely ones. That might be too monochromatic. I could like that one better. And then I think I want to use a little bit of this Mozart music page. And we could just put some of that behind. So I like to just kind of eyeball it. It needs to be, now, I think this would look nice with the Mozart name in it. So maybe I'll just take a part of this. We'll come down this way. And we'll put this for a little layering. And I'm just going to tear a little off of the edge so I don't have all of that blank space. Even though I love the patina on this book page. It's lovely. We can have a little music notes and a little bit of the Mozart, the words, maybe like that. Kind of like it with the words. Okay, so bring the glue book back in. And we'll just do paper on these clusters. Sometimes I like to do paper and lace, or paper and fabric together, and that's another lovely option for a cluster. But usually when I do all those layers of fabric and lace, I like to sew them. So I think just for the variety's sake, we'll make some. With just the paper elements, and you could always add lace to it at a later time as well. There we go, our first cluster. And let's see how it would look with just the music without the words. That way it'll still have kind of a little set feeling to it. Kind of like this, if I rip it along here. And I like to just kind of use the pieces while I'm ripping so I can see the size. So this could go right over to about here. And then we'll get how far down we want it. Maybe down like this. Oh, that looks nice. Make sure to get the edges. And I love all the jagged edges on these. Cluster number 2. Cluster number 3. I like the continuity of using the same book page for all of these. So they're all going to be like a little set. So could even do something like that. Now this one be quite a bit bigger. I like how this is going up and down and this is the vertical. Could maybe do another up and down one. Something like that. Could do it down here by all these notes. Kind of looking to see that's a lot of activity there. Could also see if there's something on the back. Kind of like that comic opera. That looks cool. So I'm purposefully using a different word other than Mozart because I didn't want it to be too matchy-matchy. Using this comic opera. And there is cluster number 4. Okay, so as you can see, we were able to make a lot of different things with these beautiful mini vintage ladies from the Etsy shop of HoneyRuthDesigns. Please go check it out and see what you might like to make, and leave me a comment if you tried something. We have the clusters, we have the journal cards using coffee and tea dyed index cards, and I love how some are on this side and some are on the other side, so they could even be on facing pages, and that would look really cool to have, you know, in the middle spread, maybe each of them kind of looking at each other. And we also did one on our journal cover. So hope you found some inspiration here today, and thanks again for watching. Have a lovely day.